react in a situation like this. So you'll be able to help your friends and help your family and help your neighbor. And in a situation like that, that's when everyone really needs to help each other. The fact that there's some towns right now going through it and they're being completely devastated and it's been unprecedented, and they may not have done this already, and there may not be anybody in this whole entire group of towns of people who have that. So that if everyone, 100% of people are in sorrow, how hard is it going to be to find some comfort? And not only that, if it's online and then you're not being comforting throughout the world, you're either telling them to move on too fast, you're either saying that I'm going to cry with you, which is not really going to help, even though it's the pathetic part of empathetic. And then don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth. Like, it's too soon for that. They already know that, I believe, you know. It's a little bit too arrogant to bring that up right now. What can you say after you have learned your reflection, putting yourself in a mindset such as what could happen to you personally, to help them? And that will be you practicing your leadership skills when something like this happens in your own community or to your own family. And so that's what I think is a really good example, and right now, about storing up for yourselves treasures in heaven, right? And what that means is the things that cannot be destroyed, taken away, things that you know personally, and where that is going to be the heart of you, and that heart of you needs to be strong. Your desire is where your heart is, and your heart is pretty much your whole being, right? The cave you fear to enter is where your treasure lies. Reflecting into the cave of your heart is the scariest thing. When's the last time you stood in front of the darkened soul of your personal mirror in truth, in complete truth? It is, be raw about it, be really critical to yourself. In truth, but not in hate. In truth, not in animosity. In truth, not in disgust. Yeah? Truth is something that it is what it is. Can you fix it, or do you not want to? In a situation where terrible disasters happen that are life-changing, life-shattering, stand with yourself in truth and see if you are capable of then accepting faster what is happening outside of you that has never happened too. So where your heart is, there your desire is, there your treasure is, and your treasure is in the cave you have feared to enter. And if you can go in and learn about your eternal treasures, then you will then have learned and felt what it is that those treasures was generated in you because of the things outside of yourself, such as, I worked hard for these pairs of shoes that got destroyed. When you bought those shoes, when you had the money to afford them, when you saw them the first time and you couldn't get them first, and then all of a sudden 2 months down the road, there they are in your closet, you reached your goal, that feeling of accomplishment, of victory, of fortitude. It took hard work, patience, perseverance, discipline, a longing, wanting, willpower, faith, and then the feeling of that relief. But it's the feeling of how you got there to get your goal. The feelings of accomplishing is completely different, right? That is going to be after that. So that is the feeling of the now of how you got to your goal. And the now is the only time that you can hold any true power. Living in the present, you're going to have criticism and anxiety. Yeah, criticism, a little bit, maybe depression too. It's going to make you feel a little bit depressed. And then living in the future is going to make you anxious, right? You're going to be thinking forward. Both of those things are out of your control. They're only in your mind. Yeah? Only in the now will you have the power to really realize things into something, and you will slowly, gently let yourself out of the now, and the future will come to you instead of you trying to go to the future. That will give you anxiety. Yeah? And so that would be a good time to feel those types of treasures, because I think that with so much stuff around us at the moment, it's hard to remember the feeling when you have something that you can touch. And so when you have something outside of yourself that is giving you a feeling, you're not really feeling the feeling, and so you're not in touch with yourself. And when a disaster like this happens, you have to be integral and fully whole. That means all truth, which means, of course, the first step, if you feel like crying, then cry. But if you can do this now with the reflecting and strengthening your eternal treasures, where your heart is, where your desire is, which is going to be the fortitude, the discipline, the perseverance, the willpower, the faith, the hope, the love, ultimately, for yourself, that the outside cannot influence, then you will get out of the truth of your emotions. After something like that happens, when you're crying and it's devastating, you'll get out of there faster. You'll remember, you can reflect. You're used to reflecting, and it's good and healthy to do that, because no matter how big a disaster is, pretty much everything that happens outside of yourself happens inside of you. If you close your eyes and you miss something, did it really happen? A tree that falls down in the forest that nobody heard, did it really fall? You know what I mean? And so you have to think about it like that. There is something inside of you that's giving you an awareness, but at the same time you have to strengthen that awareness of the inside, because the outside has become so strong in material possession. That's why when things are gone, it is a sense of your life is over. But in the correct sense, it's not. But in the unprecedented disasters that is sweeping over, it could be for a lot of people by their own hand. And really, it's a devastating thing to think that somebody felt so strongly, such as that, that they wanted to just end it, because there was nothing else. There was no future. Who cares about the past? The past was my life. I'm in the now, And if you can have this sense of connection with your true wealth, your true who you really are, and it's nothing outside of yourself that makes you who you are, then your attitudes will be quicker to adjust. And if you get really good at this, nothing outside of yourself will then be able to affect you, no matter what big of a disaster. And in that sense, you will be a great leader, and you will be able to perform wonders and miracles, because your brain, without any fear, you won't be clouded during that time. Everyone's gonna, it's freaky. I mean, it's gonna scare you. It's loud. But you'll be cautious. You'll be alert. You won't be alarmed. Yeah. And so that's what I encourage you to do. Just reflect on those internal gifts that are of strengthening, of moving forward, of bashing through obstacles, perseverance, discipline, changing the way that you look at things so that the things that you see change. And that right there, it's not lying to yourself, okay? There's that saying, fake it till you make it. It's going to be along those lines, but I think that being fake till you make it, there is still going to be a little bit of an immature root there, an immature spore that is going to not give that treasure, that plant, a good start. It's not going to be wealthy. It's not going to be integral, right? And you want something like that pure. And so what I like to think about it is, I'm not faking it till I make it. What I'm doing is, I'm practicing willpower. That's what I like to think. So, because the word fake automatically makes you think, someone's being fake, like it's not real, and so you don't want to be not real until you make it. Like, how can you be a not real until you're real? Like, it's a little bit screwy, even though we understand that saying. So that's why I like to say it's a practice in my willpower. Why not? It's me imagining what I know I could be, not what I fake, what I hope I'm going to become so I can know. Yeah? And so that sense, it's attitudes, right? And that attitude is a choice, because instinct is not an attitude. Instinct is for survival. And if even during survival times, it's a good thing to be aware of so that you can control instinct with your attitude. Does that make sense? Instinct controlling your attitude will generate foibles, slip-ups. You could hurt yourself. You could freak out instead of being in control and cautious. Instead of reacting fast to a situation, you freak out to a situation. And so attitude and instinct is good to be in balance, you know? And you could still have a good attitude and have fast reflexes. Instinct controls your reflex, but attitude can also get to that point and even better because you'll be in control of something fast. Look at Bruce Lee, you know? Incredible. And like you said, it's just about your attitude. You have to think about it a lot. And so I encourage you to do that now. And I also do encourage you that when you do that, after like a week or two, like just be consistent. It doesn't have to be long, but it's just getting to know yourself again. After a week, reread what you have written and reflect on that. And if there is affirmation or a eureka moment or just a thought that would be beneficial for the people who are going through this disaster now, then I encourage you to find those videos on YouTube and leave those types of comments of encouragement and sympathy, yeah, with empathy. Because don't be empathetic where it's like, oh, I cry with you. So to me, every time someone does that, I always imagine like a movie scene for some reason. And it's like a disaster just happened, the person's crying, the friend's like, I'm crying with you, and the friend looks at the friend and it's just like, why are you crying? This did not happen to you. You know what I mean? So it's like sometimes empathy can be the wrong type of attitude to bring, and be attitude or advice kind of, you know, to bring to situations like that too soon. And to get over something really fast that's just ridiculous. Like, oh, get over it. It's really easy to say that when it hasn't happened to you. You know what I mean? But in the sense, if it does happen to you and your family and someone says get over it, you can be like, I don't have to get over it because I have come up and through it. I know how to handle myself in a situation that is a disaster, and where everyone is freaking out, I keep my head on. Even if everyone's blaming it on me, I've learned the treasures that I store for myself inside, where no flood, no disaster outside of myself can ever destroy, because that's me. And what I had, I'm in the same boat as everybody else. I lost everything. I went through that same flood that everyone went through the last 3 days. But I can come out like this because I understand that, I already understand that I can get over those things. But right now, I do understand that I want to feel my loss. And if I want to feel it like this, or I want to be yelling, or I want to cry, then I'm going to cry. I don't need anything from you. And if you want to be around me while I'm doing that, then you can just be there. I don't need advice. I don't need anything, right? And if I do, I know that I can ask, because the things that I lost, some of them I got because I had to ask. And I learned about that when I did my reflection. So, yeah, you know, and then you can be a cornerstone where everything else that was built on sand got walked away, right? And in that sense, people can also learn from you. You make friends. You'll teach people how to do it through your actions. And in that sense, the fire will pass on to somebody. Something will stir in someone else because there's nothing else outside distracting them. You're in the same boat with no details, except the detail that there's nothing there when there used to be something there. Something there that we didn't even talk for years. You were my neighbor for 2 years. I didn't talk to you. But now there's nothing between us except we connect on the disaster, and I can help you, be comforted, and we can make friends. And that right there is adding brotherly love to your encouragement. Yeah? Brotherly love to your empathy. That's loving deeper, loving farther, being bigger, badder, better, bolder, and doing it in humility, because they can't say, oh, you're not going through, you don't know what I feel like, especially if you guys all just went through the disaster together. So no one, the truth will set you free. So that's what I encourage, and so thank you. Amen.